Welcome to Whisperer of Madness. If you're enjoying the story, consider liking the video and subscribing. It really helps grow the channel and this community. Ningzhuo took the initiative to send a visiting card, waited for a day, and saw no response. He knew what that meant. He was not surprised at all, because before taking this action, the big-headed boy had already anticipated this possibility. It seems Yuhei doesn't take me seriously. This reaction is reasonable. In Yuhei's eyes, Ningzhuo is just a newbie foundation establishment cultivator attracted to the Feiyun conference. Where did this little nobody come from? He didn't even know Ningzhuo. Even Liu Fu hasn't properly investigated Ningzhuo. Who would cover the cost of such an investigation? How much is appropriate to spend for just a foundation establishment cultivator? Although Ningzhuo has shown some means, is it worth it? So far, it is not worth Yuhei's side paying more attention. Moreover, the deeper you cultivate the reverse 5 elements demon technique, the stronger the combat power, but the harder it is to control, with an increased probability of deviation. Only those with outstanding realms can restrain such a chaotic state. Yuhei is already at the limit of his cultivation. According to intelligence, he has long been overwhelmed, spending the majority of his daily cultivation time controlling his danshan, adjusting his state to avoid deviation. In this situation, his attention naturally will not be on me. Yuhei's side disregards Ningzhuo and does not investigate him, but Ningzhuo would not make such a mistake. He even bought a part of the reverse 5 elements demon technique to come back and study. The main mountain gate of the Myriad Images sect naturally does not have a complete book pavilion, but among the 16 halls, there is one hall called the Inheritance Hall, whose functions are similar to those of the complete book pavilion. The greatest advantage of the reverse 5 elements demon technique is its combat power. For any cultivator who practices this technique, the early progress in cultivation is both fast and fierce, and their combat power often exceeds that of peers. There are two drawbacks. First, the probability of deviation in the reverse 5 elements demon technique is very high, far exceeding cultivation techniques of the same grade. Second, the upper limit of the reverse 5 elements demon technique is relatively low. It can only be cultivated up to the nascent soul stage. This is a technique that only reaches the nascent soul stage. Ningzhuo's 5 elements realm is very profound, and after just reading it once, he understood this reverse 5 elements demon technique. This kind of demon skill mainly cultivates the middle danshan qi si and the lower danshan essence si, focusing on replacing spiritual energy with essence blood, using the body's internal organs instead of external 5 elements spiritual mechanism. Under normal circumstances, even Ningzhuo transforms external spiritual power into his own mana through the 5 elements technique. Whatever spell category, it's based on the cultivation technique. A wood element technique results in wood element mana. Ningzhuo's 5 elements qi regulation art results in 5 elements mana. The reverse 5 elements demon technique derives from the internal organs. The 5 elements are categorized by the 5 internal organs, from which the cultivator extracts the spiritual mechanism, outputting through essence blood, is closer to the mana source used by cultivators. This essence blood can quickly transform into 5 elements mana. Likewise, 5 elements mana can transform back into essence blood, replenishing the body. This cultivation mechanism means the essence C is another qi C. The qi C can also be regarded as a special essence C. Adding 2 danshans together naturally makes the practitioner of the reverse 5 elements demon technique exceptionally powerful. This essence blood flowing from the 5 internal organs can quickly transform into mana of the individual elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, agilely commanded like an arm. Mana of individual elements like metal, wood, water, fire, and earth can also back convert into essence blood, strengthening the body, enhancing melee power. Therefore, practitioners of the reverse 5 elements demon technique are usually capable of both ranged and melee combat. But also due to the principles of this technique, practitioners are prone to deviation. The reason is very clear. Independently generated mana transforming into essence blood is not self-produced. To assimilate requires long-term nurturing. Transforming essence blood into mana will dramatically reduce the underlying strength of the body. The body is the foundation, and excessively drained essence blood equates to severe injuries, bringing negative impacts in many ways, causing chain worsening. Moreover, the mutual generation and restriction among 5 elements mana are complexly connected. The mana stored in the Qi Si Danshan is inherently threatening, requiring a cultivation technique to harmonize, arrange, and prevent internal conflicts. Just like Ningxiu's 5 elements Qi regulation art forms a 5 elements vortex in the Qi Si Danshan to transform and coexist. The 5 elements mana of the reverse 5 elements demon technique is not only stored in the Qi Si Danshan, but also mixed within the body. After all, the conversion of essence blood and 5 elements mana isn't instantaneous. Even if brief, it needs some time. Mixed 5 elements mana and essence blood together in the body, that's a big issue. If not handled well, it's like a powder keg, a little carelessness and it might explode. Even if it doesn't explode, the minor frictions, slight mutual consumption accumulated will also be a continuing torment to the body. So, cultivators who have successfully cultivated the reverse 5 elements demon technique often carry internal injuries. After Ningxiu paid the price and mastered the entire reverse 5 elements demon technique, he gained much more confidence in dealing with Yu He. It also added a significant portion of experience utilizing the 5 elements for him. Although my 5 elements realm is quite profound, I have very little practical application experience. After all, the time spent cultivating has been too short. Perhaps I should massively collect some 5 elements related cultivation techniques to enrich my experience library. With this accumulated knowledge, I will eventually have the capability to self-create 5 elements cultivation techniques. Ningxiu had this insight from the heart and thought of this goal. His 5 elements realm is exceedingly advanced, being able to create spells in combat, but creating a cultivation technique is much harder than creating spells. Yet, with rich theoretical and practical experience, he could fill the largest gaps and create his own cultivation technique. First, jot it down and get to it when there's time later. At present, Ningxiu mainly needed to handle Yu He. This was somewhat troublesome. Against someone like Yu He, who was in the late stage of the Golden Core, Ningxiu was fully confident of defeating him. Ningxiu had now mastered the reverse 5 elements demon technique, which directly targeted Yu He's main combat methods. Handling it was incredibly easy. Let's not even mention these. As soon as Ningxiu used the divine power life thread, he could directly control Yu He, making him publicly admit defeat, kneel on the ground, and call him father with ease. Because Yu He was not a nascent soul cultivator. As long as they're at the Golden Core stage, it's nearly impossible to escape the control of this divine power. Of course, there are exceptions, such as Zhu Xuanji, Ling Hujiu, etc., but Ningxiu didn't want to do this at all. As long as he challenged Yu He, once the outcome of their duel was decided, Ningxiu would inevitably receive attention and significant interest, leading to a plethora of public opinions, constant investigations, and attempts by various factions to recruit him. In such circumstances, how could he secretly plan to infiltrate Shuyu Pavilion? Being high profile and gaining fame is possible, but not now. Ningxiu himself needed to clear a name, but he was waiting for the right opportunity. The gathering of clouds before the Feiyun conference was an important stage slowly formed by Myriad Images sect, where cultivators eagerly showcased themselves. Ningxiu also planned to make a big splash in this stage, but now was not the time. The timing was not yet ripe. Within Myriad Images sect, there is a transition between the new and old among the 8 main peaks. Purple Thunder peaks decline, while Flowing Cloud Peak becomes the target to be pushed out. If I rashly reveal myself, both major factions and various forces will scramble to reach out. These interests include a lot: enticement, coercion, suppression, etc. Where there are people, there is worldly society. Once Ningxiu reveals his value, a vortex is bound to form around him. At that point, it's not that Ningxiu could choose not to be involved. He would be forced into it because someone like him couldn't be ignored by anyone. He is also human, still a strong one. In this worldly society, a strong person naturally stirs up storms. Ningxiu also desired to mix in but was biding his time for the right moment. What constitutes the right moment? Now, it's far from it. First, Ningxiu needed more detailed information. Therefore, these days he waited for Wen Ruiniu to finish his duties. In Ningxiu's view, when Ruiniu's strength was not only in the Golden Core stage cultivation level or his mastery in the four arts of Confucian culture. His most outstanding ability was his political talent. He had been in white paper Immortal City for so many years in the capacity of representing Myriad Images sect, managing the city's internal affairs as a deputy to the white paper city lord. His governance of white paper Immortal City over the years accumulated vast experience. He undoubtedly coordinated with various forces during this management, witnessed the dual sides of human nature, and explored the constants and variables in human hearts. When Ruiniu was simply not familiar with the current situation of Myriad Images sect, even if he had been away for a long time, he still maintained connections within the sect. Given a little time, he'd swiftly grasped the current internal affairs of Myriad Images sect. When Ruiniu absolutely supported Ningzhuo. For Ningzhuo, this would be a significant source of intelligence and reference for actions. Even with a thorough analysis of ample intelligence Ningzhuo gathered, it still did not mean the timing was ripe. He also needed to wait for an appropriate entry point. At 10,000 Medicine Sect, the entry point was Lin Shanshan. In Liangzhu country, it first was Liu Guanzhang, then Mu Lan. In white paper Immortal City, it was somewhat special. The entry point was already arranged for him. He was the highly anticipated savior. What is the entry point for Myriad Images sect? The Feiyun Conference was merely a huge opportunity for everyone. It was not an entry point. When Ruiniu, Yang Sanyan, and the close friends mentioned in the jade slip left by Buddhist Dr. Meng Yayan were closer to this concept of an entry point. When Ruiniu represented the public outside the mountain. Meng Yayan's identity was also this, someone outside the main peaks. Yang Sanyan represented the Evil Slaying Hall, one of the 16 halls, a place that gets practical work done. Meng Yayan's close friends were cultivators at the main peak, and Ningzhuo might use this channel to join the main peak. Ningzhuo was willing to befriend Shen Zai because these people could also be entry points. In the future, new entry points might appear too. As for which one Ningzhuo would ultimately choose, he didn't know yet. It had to be decided based on the situation. The new and old forces within Myriad Images sect are bound to engage in a fierce contest, and this session of the Feiyun Conference is the best stage for the showdown. Ningzhuo had already seen this through analyzing intelligence from Purple Thunder Peak and Flowing Cloud Peak, but his understanding of Myriad Images sect was far from profound. He still needed to continue observing and waiting. Once the situation became clear, where it became apparent which side had a greater chance of winning, he would basically join that side. I'm an outsider. My family is far away in southern Bean country. By joining the winning side, I'd be the winner. Who would want to lose? In Myriad Images sect, Ningzhuo as an outsider's alliances depended on his own choices. It was highly flexible. Ningzhuo's cultivation might be weak, but that didn't mean his capability was. In the years of enduring in Fire Persimmon Immortal City, he honed his political acumen. It was precisely this acumen that enabled him to make many correct choices, allowing him to thrive in 10,000 Medicine Sect, Liangzhu country, and white paper Immortal City. He often could take advantage of situations, pit external forces against each other, and win with weak strength. Now is still not the time for me to make a choice. Obtaining my mother's relics is the most important thing at this moment. Ningzhuo's goals had always been clear. So, his real problem now was how to deal with Yu Hei without making a big splash and attracting attention. And Shenzai's interference undoubtedly made this issue more complex. How should Ningzhuo showcase his talents before Shenzai, and to what extent? This really tested Ningzhuo's political skills. Su Lingku collected intelligence and went to Shenzai worriedly. Cousin, the situation has changed. Yu Hei is exerting pressure. Many of his Foundation establishment subordinates are challenging the newly arrived cultivators. The martial arts hall quickly accepted these challenges. Evidently, they had used their connections to give an early heads-up. The people Ningzhuo gathered simply aren't cutting it. Many have been scared off, and there's no rumor about 10 mid-grade spirit stones at all. Cousin, Ningzhuo's plan failed, and all our money is in Ningzhuo's hands. Shenzai shook his head and smiled. This contest has only just begun. Do you think Ningzhuo's earning opportunity wasn't seen by anyone before? Hasn't anyone tried it before? Cousin, you must understand the peak's form is conventionally agreed upon, naturally evolved. Such evolved matters often emerge naturally and are mature. Like this time, Yuhei dispatching his foundation establishment subordinates, martial challenges is a mature response. Many precedents were eliminated this way. Su Lingku's eyes lit up. Cousin, you're truly remarkable, you predicted it all. Shenzai shook his head again. If I can anticipate it, Ningzhu must have foreseen it even earlier. Yet he still chose to proceed. I'm genuinely curious about how he will respond. Su Lingku's expression changed, revealing a smile. I think Ningzhu might personally step into the arena and contest with these foundation establishment cultivators. His battle prowess is already quite exceptional. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the nerve to provoke Yuhei's side in this way. Shenzai noncommittally replied. Let's wait and see. Personally step into the arena. That's impossible. Under Su Lingku's silent watch, Ningzhu made no moves, not even any indications. Main mountain gate of the Myriad Images sect. One hall of the martial arts hall. Liu Fu's face was ashen as he stood in front of his opponent, transmitting thoughts. Chen why bother? What did Ningzhu offer you that makes you willing to offend Master Yuhei, and yet you stubbornly accept my challenge? Ningzhu had hired a group of people to rent the sect's cave mansions on a large scale, forcing Liu Fu to confess and plead guilty to Yuhei. Yuhei ordered his subordinates to trouble the cultivators renting the cave mansions. This was the main mountain gate of the Myriad Images sect, where internal disputes among cultivators were usually resolved through the martial arts hall. The Internal Affairs Hall was mainly for dealing with major conflicts among members of the Myriad Images sect. For less significant disputes, the sect encouraged private duels to resolve them. This system was very suitable to the situation of the Myriad Images sect. There were simply too many people in the Myriad Images sect. The friction among them created numerous conflicts. If the usual governance methods of a super sect were applied, it would require a large staff dedicated to dealing with these conflicts. Such governance would inevitably lead to extensive corruption and even unjust cases. After all, the Myriad Images sect is not a cultivation kingdom, which can rely on officials to judge and resolve cases, with the help of divine insight and official power, which often restores the truth. And before the early stage of the Feiyun Conference, various groups flocked to the main mountain gate, increasing the population. A large number of non-Myriad Images sect cultivators would temporarily reside here. Therefore, this would generate a massive amount of disputes and conflicts. The Myriad Images sect would generally not intervene in these matters, allowing them to be privately resolved among those involved. This approach saved considerable governance costs, and also fostered an environment of survival of the fittest within the sect, where those who stood out were often quite powerful. With strong combat power and a large number of personnel, irreconcilable conflicts, even within would prevent the Myriad Images sect from confining itself to traditional boundaries. To avoid severe internal strife, the sect's leadership naturally shifted internal conflicts to the outside world. This approach allowed more space for internal members to maneuver. Over time, the influence of the Myriad Images sect continuously expanded. Those temporarily unsuccessful in internal competition would often choose to establish outposts outside the sect, hoping to reverse their fortunes. This led to the ever-expanding reach of the Myriad Images sect's influence. So, when Yuhei discovered interference in the mountain he had chosen, his natural choice was dueling to resolve the issue. Most cultivators assembled by Ningzhu chose to avoid fighting, not daring to ask for those 10 mid-grade spirit stones, and voluntarily canceled their cave mansion rentals. But a few, firm-headed, accepted the challenge. Standing in front of Liu Fu was one such person, Chen. From Liu Fu's perspective, this was naturally hard to understand. He had already discovered that the slogan Ningzhu used to gather these low-level cultivators was the promise of 10 mid-grade spirit stones. Now, was Chen willing to risk his life for 10 spirit stones that were never coming? Examples of duels to the death were not few. Yet, he didn't know that Chen was just a temporary alias, and his true identity was Ningzhu's chef, known as Kitchen Elder. Kitchen Elder said nothing, just beckoned to Liu Fu with his finger. Liu Fu was furious. Stubborn fool! He flicked his hand, sending out 10 talismans. The talismans ignited midair, transforming into water arrows, launching an offensive towards Kitchen Elder. With a thought, Kitchen Elder took out a shield, placing it in front. Simultaneously, Kitchen Elder kicked the ground, using his movement technique to swiftly shift position. Bang, bang, bang. The shield was very agile, moving as he willed, surrounding Kitchen Elder, intercepting all the threatening water arrows. Kitchen Elder reached into his chest and then flung a handful of glutinous rice into the air. The glutinous rice grew wildly in midair, transforming into giant rice-white worms, surrounding Liu Fu. Liu Fu's heart raced. Gu Cultivator! Liu Fu retrieved his trusty magic artifact, a sword box he had procured from the market. Infusing it with mana, he opened the sword box, from which burst forth waves of micro-gold sword chi. The sword chi was sharp, piercing through the worms with unabated momentum, circling back to penetrate them again. After several cycles, one giant worm perished. Kitchen Elder smiled inwardly. Using sword chi on the giant worms was an absolute mistake on Liu Fu's part. Kitchen Elder intended for them to be expendable. Liu Fu expended vast mana to conjure sword chi that only killed worms, thus relinquishing his advantage in the fight. If the sword chi were directed at Kitchen Elder, he would definitely have to defend with all his might, leading to a stalemate. But now, with no external pressure, Kitchen Elder could easily focus on dealing with Liu Fu. He brought out a gourd, spraying a deluge of golden oil droplets. Hundreds and thousands of oil droplets formed a violent rain, enveloping Liu Fu. Having lost the initiative, Liu Fu could only activate a talisman, forming a light shield akin to a golden bell over himself to stabilize the situation temporarily. The light shield was indeed sturdy, withstanding oil droplets that shattered upon impact, the residual oil scattering all around. For the time being, it was unbreakable. "This is a talisman treasure," Xianxia observed as he watched. Normally, such a duel wouldn't interest him at all. But since it related to Ningzhuo and his own standing in the alliance, he was somewhat intrigued. "What do you think, cousin?" Xianxia asked, taking the chance to train Su Linku. Without hesitation, Su Linku replied, "Liu Fu is not adept in battle. He made two erroneous choices. The first was willingly losing his advantage, and the second makes him seem as stable as a mountain, but in reality turns him into a sitting duck." Especially the first time. Su Linku shook his head, full of disdain. "Liu Fu actually used sword chi to attack worms, utterly foolish." Xianxia smiled slightly. "I can understand him. The methods of Gu cultivators are always strange and unusual. Liu Fu chose to deal with these worms first, which is considered a safe move. It's just that he misjudged. Chen is not a Gu cultivator. He must have mastered some cooking skills." A bystander's clarity. Xianxia noticed the details and identified that the old cook was not scattering Gu insects, but glutinous rice. Su Linku. "Liu Fu is going to lose. This Chen should be Ningzhu's countermeasure. He hides the real experts within. Yu Hei's subordinate challenges failing won't let it rest peacefully. Ultimately, it's very likely it could lead Yu Hei to take action personally." Xianxia nodded. He focused on the match, pointing toward the old cook. "Cousin, I need to investigate him." Xianxia needed to determine whether the old cook was hired by Ningzhuo at a high price or was one of Ningzhuo's own subordinates. There is a huge difference between these two. Just as he finished speaking, the old cook executed a winning blow, severely injuring Liu Fu. After winning, the old cook did not leave the martial arts hall. Next, there was a second match, a third match. Since it was a concentrated challenge, the martial arts hall arranged the contest between Ningzhuo's and Yu Hei's subordinates together. The second match featured one tall and one short contestant. The tall one gave a loud shout, his muscles knotting like ancient tree roots as he pounded his fists into the ground. An earth python broke through the ground, charging towards the short one. The short one chuckled lightly, agile beyond compare, directly leaping onto the back of the earth python, making a frontal charge towards the tall one. The tall one snorted coldly, throwing out over a dozen talismans that ignited instantly. The talismans turned into numerous stone cones, shooting towards the short one. The short one's speed soared, leaving afterimages, crashing headlong into the midst of the stone cones. Amidst the barrage of stone cones, he continuously shifted, weaving left and right, evading every attack and pouncing in front of the tall one. The tall one, skilled in long-range spell fighting, was quickly overwhelmed by the short one's dagger-wielding close attack. Seeing the unfavorable situation, the tall one could only concede defeat. The third match, fourth match, fifth match. Yu Hei's side ended up losing every match. The one-sided results filled Su Linku with astonishment. Shenzai's eyes flashed with a sharp light. Where did Ningzhu find these experts? Cousin, check every one of them thoroughly to find out their identities. He realized he had underestimated Ningzhu's strength and thought to himself, this person deserves a reassessment. In the late afternoon, all defeated. In the cultivation room, Yuhei suddenly looked up, eyes wide, staring at Liu Fu. Liu Fu's face was deathly pale as he hesitantly recounted the details. At the end, he handed Yuhei an invitation letter once more. The invitation was still from Ningzhu. Yuhei frowned deeply, staring at the invitation. After a brief silence, his brow unfurrowed, revealing a smile. A mere foundation establishment, he. Ningzhu's image in his mind had slightly shifted. Although still a mere small-time foundation establishment cultivator, there seemed to be a force behind him that required more attention in terms of overall strength. Of course, it wasn't too much attention. Yuhei knew clearly that the cultivators attached to him were not that outstanding in strength. He was primarily cultivating the reverse 5 elements demon technique, and his physical condition had long been deteriorating, and he had to risk breaking through to the nascent soul stage. If a foundation establishment stage elite wanted to attach to a stronger force, they certainly wouldn't choose him. A flame rose from the palm, burning the invitation to ashes. Yuhei shook his hand and looked at Liu Fu. The other party came prepared, so it's understandable that you were caught off guard and lost. He did not blame them, but instead provided Liu Fu and the others with a way out. Since this is the case, let's pave the way. Ningzhu wants to gather loose cultivators on a large scale to settle here, and a key part is the cultivator in the internal affairs hall helping him. Warnings, threats, or bribery. In any case, securing this key person could very likely thwart Ningzhu. Yuhei began to brainstorm. He had known this was how Ningzhu operated, therefore recognizing one of the key points in this action. As long as it's broken, it could cause considerable interference for Ningzhu. But the next moment, Liu Fu revealed a bitter smile. My lord, we have just found the cultivator from the Internal Affairs Hall cooperating with Ningzhu. His surname is Cao, called Cao Gui. Yuhei immediately frowned. That Cao? Liu Fu was a long-time follower of his. Otherwise, Yuhei would not have entrusted him with the task of expelling the cultivators. Liu Fu nodded. Yuhei's frown deepened. It seems the other side came prepared. Years ago, he offended someone from the main peak, specifically the Cao family. To solve this problem, he almost exhausted his fortune. Even though the Cao family did not take action against him, he could not contend for the position of Golden Core True Transmission. How could the Cao family let an enemy become a sect's true inheritance? Ningzhu's early intelligence gathering, the money wasn't spent in vain. This path is blocked, so Yuhei thought of another way. The fact that these people are being used by Ningzhu is a bit odd. Go investigate your opponents and find a way to buy them off. Due to the involvement of someone from the Cao family, Yuhei was even more reluctant to make any big moves. He would rather spend money to resolve trouble. Liu Fu nodded and went off to carry out his orders. Half a day later, Su Lingku, feeling dejected, reported back to Shenzai. Shenzai slightly raised his brow. You're saying you couldn't investigate them at all? Su Lingku nodded. Yes, it's like they appeared out of nowhere. Shenzai displayed a heavy expression. Bringing some outsiders into the Myriad Images sect was not uncommon. Since they weren't loose cultivators, this implies Ningzhu has the backing of a force. Ningzhu's image in Shenzai's mind was immediately shrouded in a veil of mystery. Liu Fu also reported a similar response to Yuhei. After dismissing Liu Fu, Yuhei was silent in contemplation. This part was not a flaw either. Like Shenzai, Yuhei once again raised his evaluation of Ningzhu. Why is this person going to such great lengths to complicate matters for me, just because I expelled him and cost him face? Yuhei was puzzled. Resolving the mystery would be simple, just confronting Ningzhu directly would suffice. However, he had burned the invitation. Just as Yuhei was feeling regret, his eyes suddenly focused. A letter of invitation was resting quietly beside him. The shock was extraordinary for Yuhei. He had no idea when the invitation was placed beside him. If the other party could send an invitation so casually, he could just as easily approach and take his life. Ningzhu, which force are you backed by? Yuhei opened the invitation and read it quickly. The content was simple. Ningzhu requesting a visit to Yuhei for a mutual exchange on the reverse 5 elements demon technique. Yuhei laughed in anger. A mere foundation establishment cultivator wanting to discuss with me, a late-stage golden core. This attitude of equal exchange left Yu Hei feeling quite annoyed. Yet this time, he ultimately did not tear up the invitation. After some contemplation, he again summoned Liu Fu. "Arrange it. Tomorrow I will entertain Ning Zhuo with good wine and dishes." Liu Fu: "Yes." The next day, Ning Zhuo arrived punctually at the Panchi Cave mansion as agreed. He was full of courtesy, addressing Yu Hei as senior, which calmed the latter's emotions considerably. After some pleasantries, Ning Zhuo frankly stated he didn't intend to get tangled in this matter, that he would prefer to take 10 pieces of spirit stone to choose another cave mansion for convenience. But Shenzai approached him with another urgent matter. As for what urgent matter, Ning Zhuo briefly explained. "I see." Yu Hei stroked his beard with a neutral expression. Ning Zhuo: "So please rest assured, Senior Yu. Although I borrowed the power of the Cow family, this matter isn't caused by the Cow family using me to trouble you." Words often need to be heard in reverse. This means if Ning Zhuo really wanted to deal with Yu Hei, he could fully utilize this power at a deeper level. Yu Hei cast a deep glance at Ning Zhuo. "What do you intend?" Ning Zhuo, however, changed the subject. "Lately, I have been researching the reverse 5 elements demon technique and have a number of doubts, which I would like to consult with you, Senior." Yu Hei snorted coldly, tired of Ning Zhuo beating around the bush, yet he still stroked his beard, raised his head slightly. "Ask away, then." In the Panchi Cave mansion, Yu Hei sat at the main seat, with Ning Zhuo standing in front of him. Although Ning Zhuo relied on many foundation establishment cultivators to defeat all of Yu Hei's subordinates, in Yu Hei's heart, it only proved that Ning Zhuo had some hidden force assisting him. Yu Hei's impression of Ning Zhuo was still limited to the level of a foundation establishment cultivator. Ning Zhuo was indifferent and took the initiative to speak. "Senior Yu, I have been studying the reverse 5 elements demon technique, and there are a few points of confusion. The first is the heart fire extracts 3 parts of the blood, turning the red essence into syrup. Although I have not practiced this skill, just reading it, I can deduce that if one operates the technique according to this point, it would undoubtedly cause the heart and veins to be agitated and blood to flow too quickly. How does Senior usually harmonize such an issue?" Ning Zhuo's 5 elements realm was quite profound, but he had not cultivated any of the reverse 5 elements demon technique, and was limited to theoretical research, so even though he understood the essence of this technique, he had many questions. Yu Hei sneered. "Harmonize? Harmonize what? Just extract and use it directly." As he spoke, he spread the 5 fingers of his right hand, palm facing up, and drew out a stream of essence blood. The essence blood was dark red in color, pulsating and twisting like a living thing. Yu Hei continued. "After extraction, it's like a person holding branding iron. It must be consumed immediately, as it can't suppress its agitated nature at all." He suddenly clenched his 5 fingers tightly, and the blob of essence blood instantly collapsed and solidified, transforming into a scarlet flame that enveloped his fist, burning fiercely. The agitation of the heart and veins, the rapid flow of blood are not burdens, but strong causes for attacking the enemy in battle. The mind must be fierce, like a wildfire blazing across the fields, one thought rising, and the blood has already turned into qi, burning fiercely. Harmonize what? A slight delay would result in the consequence of burning through the heart and veins. Ning Zhuo was silent for a moment, then nodded slightly. "So that's how it is. Overcome fierce with fierceness, control violence with speed." Then this phrase, "the liver palace nurtures wood essence," passes Kuquan and channels to Zhangmen. How does Senior interpret the 3 words, pass Kuquan? Operating at this point, I'm afraid, will cause the meridians to become stagnant, like vines entwining dry wood. The more times it happens, the deeper the aftereffects. Yu Hei nodded. "It is indeed stagnant. Look." He bent his left arm, his loose robe sleeve sliding down to reveal a deep, old scar on the inside of his arm, showing bone with a bluish-black wood chi. Around the scar, the muscles and veins were twisted and knotted, exuding a bizarre vitality, as if small roots were traveling under the skin. "Do you see it? This is left every time when my energy runs through the Kuquan Pass. The spontaneous chi of the liver palace is domineering and tricky, like the roots of an old tree. Because of the frequent use, this pass is almost completely blocked. However, I have thought of a method." Saying this, he placed 2 fingers like a knife and traced several virtual strokes near his left rib at the Zhangmen point. the fingertips raising strands of green qi, winding a strange snake-shaped trajectory in the air. Kuquan is like an old tree's knot, almost a dead end. I then follow the wood attribute, like vines clinging, circulating along its texture. When operating the technique, focus the mind on Zhangmen, using the point as the root. Guide the wood essence to explore like spring tendrils, with some parts seeping through Kuquan, the majority detouring from both sides. Though tortuously winding, it consumes quite a lot of vital energy, but at least it prevents wood qi from fully clogging and backlashing the liver palace. At this point, a flash of mixed dread and satisfaction glimmered in his eyes. This clever method was something he realized through agony and inspiration when he once nearly succumbed to deviation. Ning Zhuo also noticed it. He looked at Yu Hei in front of him, a hint of pity flashing in his eyes. Practicing like him, the frequency of deviation is very high. These clever methods were probably summarized from blood and tears, due to so many occurrences of deviation and constant accumulation of experience. I'm afraid he masters other such methods as well. Such clever methods are undoubtedly short-sighted, but this is as high as Yu Hei's 5 elements realm can go. Ning Zhuo, with keen observation, inferred Yu Hei's 5 elements realm just from this small trick. Given his ability, inventing these clever methods indeed allows him to maintain his cultivation level and uphold his strength with minimal cost. Accumulate enough of such clever methods, and they can trigger qualitative changes through quantitative ones, gradually improving this demon technique. Many cultivation techniques have been continuously improved and perfected in this manner. For a moment, Ning Zhu couldn't help but feel emotional. He thought of his own 5 elements qi regulation art. Compared to it, the reverse 5 elements demon technique is merely rubble against a shining pearl. Yu Hei's cultivation of the reverse 5 elements demon technique, with each cultivation, is destroying his own body. The higher his cultivation level, the more drawbacks and hidden dangers he accumulates. Because its greatest strength is the conversion of essence and qi, yet it is converted rather crudely and simply. Just channeling qi can cause damage to a cultivator's physical body. 5 elements qi regulation art specializes in the middle danshan qi si, allowing free conversion between the 5 elements. Since it's confined within the qi si, all backlashes from the conversion of the elements are borne by the qi si, rendering them negligible. Reverse 5 elements demon technique is troublesome. It can convert essence blood into mana, but the cultivator's body is not empty, quite the contrary. It is dense and substantial. Just the 5 elements qi regulation art alone is a top-tier technique in the world, and this is only one of the 3 superior sect techniques. Compared to Yu Hei, I am fortunate. When I save my mother, the lava fairy palace is destined to be under my control. The 3 superior sect techniques that Ning Zhuo obtained included only the Foundation Establishment chapter, not the Golden Core chapter. He needs to seek it from the Dharma transmission bell of the lava fairy palace. While traveling to the Myriad Images sect, Ning Zhuo's cultivation level did not improve significantly, but his combat prowess advanced by leaps and bounds. When I face Meng Qi again, I will never be as passive and embarrassed as before. Gathering his scattered thoughts, Ning Zhuo said to Yu Hei, Senior Yu's method of releasing the stagnation of wood qi and opening a new path to facilitate cultivation is indeed skillful. However, based on what Senior Yu just mentioned, the fierce heart fire must be countered quickly. The entangled liver wood must be gently unwound. These are all singular strategies, similar to managing water by dredging only one channel. Considering the 5 elements rotation as a whole, there are indeed many inappropriate aspects. For instance, what if one were to exchange essence blood for gold element magic power? This is both the source of sharp energy and needs to restrain its lethal nature, to prevent excess gold qi from harming one's meridians. It also requires the nurturing power of the earth element, spleen palace, to enhance its resilience, and the guidance of kidney water, gooey water, to moisten its dryness. How can balance be achieved here? Ning Zhuo immediately noticed the inconsistency. The reverse 5 elements demon technique is self-consistent, but the additions by Yu Hei caused significant disruption to its overall integrity. If Yu Hei only focuses on the fire and wood attributes, it will severely interfere with the cultivation of the gold, water, and earth elements. Yu Hei's expression was as calm as water. He primarily cultivated fire and wood, supplemented by water. The fire attribute was explosive. Wood produces fire, extending duration, and the water element nourished and soothed damage, maintaining calmness. Yu Hei barely maintained such a fragile power triangle. To him, the gold and earth elements were more of a burdensome load. Balance. Yu Hei had exhausted all his efforts in understanding the wood and fire attributes. In trying to comprehend the water element, he had already pushed himself to his learning limits. Where could he spare attention for the gold and earth elements? Yu Hei stared wide-eyed at Ningzhuo. Young one, you must know that this demon's skill is inherently a life-or-death gamble. Being cautious and harmonious is absolutely not the spirit of demon skill. Ningzhu saw Yu Hei lose composure and smiled slightly. Senior, I have conceived a magic technique that might harmonize the 5 elements and let them rotate on their own. The principle is simple. Choose one of the 5 elements as the main axis. The other 4 elements generate and follow like a rotating wheel. Yu Hei sneered. Easier said than done. I ask you, how will you implement it? Ningzhu nodded. It's not difficult. He channeled his mana, gestured with his fingers in front of him, causing the mana to linger midair, forming a 3-dimensional shape, resembling both a talisman and an array. This is the prototype of the rotation, based on Senior's actual situation if we take the fire attribute as the main axis. It goes like this. Ningzhu pointed to the center of the shape, igniting a burst of flame. The flame propelled the shape, causing it to spin slowly. Ningzhu said, Heart fire as hub, the start of rotation. The shape's rotation speed increased, with its overall form gradually resembling a wheel. Yu Hei sneered, as if he already anticipated the whole shape would collapse with continued rotation. Indeed, if left to develop like this, it would happen. But in the next moment, Ningzhu lightly touched the edge of the wheel with his fingertip, and a light blue water trail spread, forming an inner ring, like a cold dam bordering the fiery fire. Ningzhu explained, by utilizing the nourishing intent of the water element to cover beyond the wheel hub, like a boiling pot covered with a cold lid, to prevent its fierceness from consuming the wheel, using it solely as propulsion. Yu Hei's expression changed slightly, but he still showed no concern. The water element can suppress the fire attribute, but it can't persist, and the shape remains unstable, only delaying the inevitable collapse. Moreover, with water and fire being incompatible, the consequences of collapse could be more severe than before. Ningzhu maneuvered his fingers repeatedly, forming dark green lines with wood element mana, linking them from the water wheel's edge to the fire hub. Water generates wood, wood generates fire. Wood's vigor easily loses order. By following this linking sequence, using the principle of 5 elements generating, it is rationally constructed for wood element to act like spokes. At this moment, Yu Hei's expression changed dramatically. Ningzhu's design was incredibly clever, achieving 2 goals with 1 move. It eased the incompatibility of water and fire and greatly stabilized the shape. A clear improvement in the technique had begun to take form. Could it really work? No, there's still gold and earth elements remaining. No, even if further deduction is impossible, this structure is already highly beneficial to me. Perhaps with further contemplation, I can truly deduce the final result. Ningzhu drew a circle with gold element magic power, forming a second wheel. The gold and water wheels were of equal size, both orbiting around the fire hub with a faint hum. The moment the 2 wheels collided, delicate transformations occurred. Gold was moistened by water, restraining its edge, becoming more solid. While gold produces water, the water element expanded, receiving nourishment. Yu Hei unconsciously stood up, not remaining seated. He intensely observed the shape. At this moment, the mana shape had become a sphere, a fire cluster at its heart, wood element spokes, water element boundary, and a gold element rim without spokes, revolving around the fire cluster, frequently colliding with the water element boundary. Yu Hei instinctively spoke. Marvelous, before water generates wood, wood generates fire, water supports everything with considerable consumption. But now, with gold producing water, it's significantly replenished, extending its duration. But it's still unstable. The gold element is also beaten by the fire attribute. Once either the gold or water element is exhausted, this structure will collapse. Yu Hei felt deep regret. He never anticipated Ningzhu would deduce to such an extent. He was completely captivated by the shape. What a pity, too much of a pity. Just one step away, yet as hard as ascending to heaven. No, it's simply impossible. Ningzhu took in all of Yu Hei's expressions, laughed loudly. Senior Yu, don't worry, just watch. Ningzhu curled his index finger, drawing an earth element power like a seed, tossing it directly into the fire cluster. Watch as I infuse gold qi into the fire, Ningzhu called out softly, directing his divine sense to maneuver the golden wheel. The golden wheel abruptly contracted. Gold beats wood. During the contraction, the wood element spokes fully disintegrated, then were driven by the golden wheel, all thrown into the fire core. Fire beats gold, wood produces fire. The flame intensified, consuming the wood element, extinguishing the gold element, adding to the earth element. It was fire producing earth. The earth element seed rapidly expanded, suddenly detonating. Earth element dispersed largely, forming a new golden circle, expanding rapidly, and quickly the golden wheel regenerated to its original size and position. The mana shape continually evolved, with water generating wood, wood generating fire, following the 5 elements principle, resulting in a natural production of abundant wood element spokes. At this moment, every hair on Yu Hei stood on end. He felt struck by lightning, frozen in place, staring intently at the 5 elements rotation map before him. Beautiful beyond words. Marvelous, indescribable, he roared internally. Enormous surprise filled his heart, making him feel as if in a dream. Heaven help us, what a beautiful dream this is. Ningzhu's eyes reflected 5-colored brilliance, calmly explaining. The fire attribute is explosive, but when gold qi enters the fire, it takes advantage of its sharp and lethal intent, not to harm oneself, but to stabilize the mind, eliminating wild thoughts within the fire, lending a pure, focused force. It's fire with gold's grind, its light concentrated and undispersed. Afterwards, the remnants return, nourishing the thick earth. The virtue of earth supports all, rebirthing the golden wheel. Thus, the 5 elements rotate, endlessly enduring. Ningzhu's voice was calm, but it resounded thunderously in Yu Hei's ears. This late-stage golden core cultivator, his eyes gleaming with increasing brightness, his face flushed with extreme excitement, muttered under his breath. Balance in motion, 5-speed rotation, fire hub drives, gold grinds the spirit, earth nurtures roots. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. He was so focused that he subconsciously operated his mana, altering his mana flow in accordance with the animated diagram before him. This change was extraordinary. Yu Hei was gravely unprepared, his concentration drawn outward. And altering mana flow was not something easily done. The old order overthrown, the new order hadn't emerged in time. Boom. As the fire cluster just formed, it directly exploded. A horrifying burning pain instantly swept through his entire body. Yu Hei's pupils shrank sharply, revealing an expression of unparalleled shock. I'm going to die. Chapter 977. Chapter 352. Give me a chance to repay your kindness deviation. In an instant, Ningzhu sensed Yu Hei's state. This truly caught him by surprise. He merely wanted to draw Yu Hei's attention. To be precise, just enough attention to some degree. Yu Hei, at the late-stage golden core, had the greatest advantage of combat with the reverse 5 elements demon technique, which was his strongest aspect. If Ningzhu were to defeat him, he would have to reveal some of his trump cards. Is it necessary? Unless necessary, Ningzhu would not easily expose his combat power. There are other ways to gain attention, such as the 5 elements realm. By coincidence, Yu Hei practiced the reverse 5 elements demon technique, which naturally falls within the 5 elements category. Using the advantage of the 5 elements realm to gain Yu Hei's attention is far better than a spar. However, Yu Hei's 5 elements realm evidently wasn't much, otherwise he wouldn't be struggling here. From start to finish, Ningzhu would never personally enter the spar. Evade the enemy's strength and strike at their weakness. That is the essence of strategy. Ningzhu also wouldn't fully display his advanced realm in the 5 elements. There is no need, just getting Yu Hei's attention and prompting an attitude change is enough. Under the guise of seeking advice, Ningzhu first inquired about Yu Hei's specific situation. On one hand, he was merely studying the reverse 5 elements demon technique, akin to talking strategies on paper without real cultivation experience. On the other hand, he needed to gain a deeper understanding of Yu Hei's specific situation. Ningzhu's luck wasn't bad. as Yuhei didn't hide anything and spoke honestly. Ningzhu smoothly discovered that Yuhei's expertise was deepest in fire attribute and wood element, followed by wood element, with gold element and earth element being rather poor. To demonstrate his realm's advantages and not be off-putting while keeping the audience engaged, the first option is altruism. Just by giving appropriate suggestions on Yuhei's cultivation condition, it could benefit Yuhei and compel him to acknowledge Ningzhu's superiority. For most cultivators, this is quite difficult, but for Ningzhu, it is much easier. Why? Because his 5 elements realm is so profound. Of course, such profundity also has limits. Ningzhu can create spells on the spot but isn't yet qualified to establish cultivation techniques in the 5 elements category. The difficulty of these two is worlds apart. Therefore, Ningzhu prepared in advance. He purchased the reverse 5 elements demon technique. This demon skill is quite superficial. Ningzhu could grasp the principle at a glance. Moreover, Ningzhu also practiced the 5 elements qi regulation art, a top-notch cultivation technique known for balancing and harmonizing 5 elements mana. It can also transmute single attribute mana through the principles of mutual generation and mutual subjugation, achieving multiplying or dividing effects. With these foundations, after understanding Yuhei's specific situation, Ningzhu fully devised and thought of an improvement plan. It was equivalent to tailoring a patch for Yuhei's situation. Analyze specific situations and then solve them specifically. This patch was only suitable for Yuhei, without any universal value, hence far from truly improving the reverse 5 elements demon technique. Yet Yuhei was in high spirits, ecstatic and deeply engrossed to the point of complete immersion. He was too delighted. The nagging problem that had plagued him was unexpectedly resolved at this moment. Moreover, this solution was so novel and wonderfully fitting for him. Naturally, it was. The patch Ningzhu tailored for him, how could it not be suitable? Although Yuhei's 5 elements realm was uneven and far inferior to Ningzhu, he fundamentally practiced the reverse 5 elements demon technique, so he had a foundational understanding of the 5 elements realm. He recognized the reason within Ningzhu's demonstration. The principle was correct. This is correct. It works, it really works. Genuine joy filled his heart, making Yuhei forget himself and instinctively attempt it. Once attempted, he failed. To some extent, this patch equated to restructuring the mana circulation route within Yuhei's body. There were many things that needed earlier preparation, and more practice was required. Yuhei's action was too rash. But Ningzhu understood him very well, because Ningzhu had experienced something very similar. He unintentionally discovered the heaven and earth embryonic breathing grand art from the fetal breathing spirit boat and involuntarily delved into it, forgetting the fact that all 3 C's cultivation had a main cultivation method. This caused him to suffer backlash and sustain severe injuries. At that time, his urgency to resurrect his mother was too intense. The main reason for the low qi fortune, Ningzhu still did not understand. Yuhei's anxiety was also immense. The pressure he faced was heavy as a mountain, almost akin to a desperate situation. He had to break through to the nascent soul stage. This patch would significantly adjust his state, at least increasing the breakthrough probability by 30%. How could Yuhei not be ecstatic? In ecstasy, he lost composure. I'm going to die. Yuhei's mood plummeted from the clouds to the mud. Most cultivators would still strive at this point. But Yuhei had too much experience with deviation, far too enriched in this aspect. Thus, he quickly recognized reality, knowing that this desperate situation was utterly hopeless and completely irretrievable. I couldn't have imagined I'd die in this way. He fainted. Ningzhu frowned deeply. If Yuhei truly were to die, it would be rather troublesome. What Ningzhu urgently needed at that moment was to enter his mother's cave mansion. Therefore, he needed to start from this mountain peak, taking a shortcut to avoid the time-consuming regular route. If Yuhei dies, this matter will become a big deal. The Myriad Images sect encourages cultivators to resolve disputes through martial demonstrations, rather than this kind of situation. This easily leads people to suspect that Yuhei died from a covert attack. Once he dies, it will inevitably trigger inquiries and investigations by Myriad Images sect, making it very likely to complicate matters further. As for Shenzai, it's merely an add-on with room for development, but for now it seems more like a disguise, neither essential nor unnecessary. Ningzhu snorted coldly in his heart. Deviation! In front of me, I won't allow you to deviate. He extended his hand, his 5 fingers spread open, mana surging, grabbing out of thin air. He pulled Yuhei into his palm, gripping his head like holding a ball. Yuhei had completely passed out, motionless. Divine skill life hanging thread. Ningzhu examined the situation inside Yuhei's body and discovered the heart palace's lava spewing, liver palace's poison thorns piercing, kidney palace's stagnant water counter-corroding, lung palace's golden blades dancing wildly, spleen palace's earth foundation collapsing. The 5 elements mana and essence blood were in utter chaos, entangled, becoming a tangled mess. If this continued, it would only take a few breaths for the reverse 5 elements golden core to be affected, leading to the golden core's detonation, and the explosion's devastation would engulf the entire cave mansion and mountain. The power of a golden core's detonation is extremely formidable. Yuhei, who is skilled in combat, is even more so. Back then, Qing Yan detonated his golden core, able to obstruct a spatial storm for a breath, giving Ningzhu and Qing Kai crucial escape time. Ningzhu snorted coldly again, pouring divine sense into his body, fully enveloping Yuhei's entire body. Meanwhile, the life-hanging thread directly connected and settled on the reverse 5 elements golden core. The next moment, he directly manipulated the golden core, unleashing a surge of violent 5 elements mana. The mana rampaged in Yuhei's body, causing significant injuries. Blood oozed from Yuhei's mouth. His injuries were severe. But by fighting violence with violence, the immediate effect was successful, temporarily stabilizing his condition, easing the crisis, buying enough time. Ningzhu carefully manipulated, beginning to finely carve. Yuhei offered no resistance, so he began implementing his earlier reasoning, directly constructing a brand new mana circulation within his body. Beads of sweat gradually seeped from Ningzhu's forehead. Fully focused, his spirit was rapidly consumed. After a moment, Ningzhu exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, slowly retracting his hand. His face was pale as paper, his eyes like cold stars, secretly relieved. This is my first time manipulating someone else's golden core like this. Reverse 5 elements golden core is very difficult to control. The mana expelled naturally mingles all 5 elements, completely unable to precisely control the flow. Fortunately, I have similar experience. Ningzhu's experience came from the 5 elements golden core wheel. This mechanism component is the core of Iron Han armor, which Ningzhu had repeatedly damaged during the fierce battle with Lord of Wanchuan. Frequent use during life-and-death battles also gave Ningzhu many insights into using the golden core. These insights helped him painstakingly manipulate the reverse 5 elements golden core, barely reaching the desired goal. Ningzhu took out a cushion, immediately closed his eyes and sat cross-legged, both to rest himself and to secretly review, engraving his insights and inspirations in his mind. This practice gave him new ideas about the 5 elements golden core wheel. He now memorized these ideas, planning to delve into them further when he has the opportunity. Perhaps I can make some improvements to the 5 elements golden core wheel. After a cup of tea's time, Yuhei, who was lying on the ground, slowly opened his eyes. What happened to me? Pain. Wait, was I dead? He suddenly widened his eyes and sat up halfway. A sharp pain transmitted, making him gasp coldly. He instinctively used divine sense to introspect, discovering that he was heavily injured. But he was ecstatic, because he realized that the desperate situation of 5 elements chaos before he passed out had completely disappeared. A new circulation had been established, revolving around the reverse 5 elements golden core, operating on its own. The mortal crisis was resolved. I'm still alive. I'm actually still alive. His gaze suddenly fixed on Ningzhu. Only then did he realize he was lying on the ground, while Ningzhu, a mere foundation establishment cultivator, was sitting in his position, sipping tea while browsing the cultivation technique Jade slips on his bookshelf. Yuhei blinked a few times, looking at Ningzhu with surprise and doubt. You saved me. Ningzhu directed his gaze toward him, his expression indifferent, only emitting a nasal sound. Yuhei's expression froze momentarily, suddenly awakening to the situation. He endured the pain and forcefully stood up. With a solemn face, he bowed his hands to Ningzhu in gratitude. Taoist fellow Ningzhuo, I am deeply grateful for your life-saving grace, a debt I shall never forget. He wondered in his heart, was it Ningzhu himself, or was it another high-ranking expert who aided him? Could Taoist fellow Ningzhu alone, merely at the foundation establishment stage, resolve such a dangerous situation for me? It's more plausible that there's an elder lurking near him. His previous exchange of words with me probably received guidance from an elder. Yu Hei had just fainted, completely unaware of the world outside. Given his life experiences, it's hard to imagine Ningzhu independently saving him from such dire straits. But regardless of whether it was an elder or Ningzhu himself, both were his lifesavers. Yu Hei maintained a posture of bowing and gratitude, speaking again to express his willingness to repay Ningzhu. Ningzhu felt secretly pleased. This Yu Hei was a rather perceptive individual. This wasn't outside Ningzhu's expectations. He had previously researched intelligence and analyzed Yu Hei's character. The conflict between Yu Hei and the main peak had subjected him to long-term oppression. These life experiences imparted many lessons, granting him a keen sense of self-awareness and a strong understanding of societal etiquette. If he had truly acted recklessly and according to whim, he would have long met his demise, unable to achieve the position he held today. It was precisely because Ningzhu had this recognition of Yu Hei that he decided to lend a helping hand when Yu Hei fainted. You indeed need to repay me. Ningzhu first presented a divine contract, but before that you should sign this. Yu Hei's heart sank, fearing it was a slave contract, but he accepted it nonetheless. Eventually, upon inspection, he found it was merely a simple confidentiality contract. He promptly signed this contract. Ningzhu smiled. Taoist fellow Yu Hei, I have no interest in the mountain you selected. I was unaware of this beforehand. Originally, I intended to take 10 mid-grade spirit stones and leave here to rent another cave mansion. Avoid trouble when possible. I'm new here and don't wish to make enemies too easily. But who could have thought Shenzai would come to me, telling me? Ningzhu used Shenzai's request as an excuse. Yu Hei immediately accepted, nodding repeatedly. I've heard of the Shen family of the Nine-Palace Immortal City before, renowned for the formation set up, famous throughout the Flying Cloud country, indeed remarkable. Taoist fellow Ningzhu, at such a young age, is also quite accomplished. Communicating with a genius like Shenzai is indeed suitable. With that said, he clasped his fists once again. Then I shall immediately pack my belongings and lead my subordinates to move away from here. Ningzhu laughed heartily, gesturing with his hand. No need, that's too conspicuous. I'm new here and don't wish to stand out too much, better to observe the situation first. Yu Hei understood, nodding again, expressing his willingness to follow Ningzhu's arrangements. Ningzhu said, Since I'm leaving, I won't return. It's imperative that today's matter between us remains strictly confidential. I need you to invite Shenzai and Su Linku, that pair of cousins, to a banquet. At the feast, converse with me, adopting a stance of equality. Yu Hei was stunned again. Unexpectedly, Ningzhu's request had turned out to be so easy. Yu Hei felt pressure instead. He first expressed a willingness to cooperate actively with Ningzhu, then cautiously stated, such an arrangement cannot truly repay the life-saving grace. Ningzhu smiled at him. The dispute between you and me is minor as dust. Were it not for Shenzai, do you think I would be entangled here? Were it not for your dying in front of me, causing much trouble and attention, I wouldn't have intervened. That's my honest view, please don't take offense. To this day, even though Ningzhu was just at the foundation establishment stage, he had enough confidence to stand shoulder to shoulder with a golden core cultivator like Yu Hei. Yu Hei opened his mouth to speak, harboring some persistence of his own. Seeing this, Ningzhu said, How about this? I'll arrange for some subordinates to temporarily occupy your mountain. By my side, it's not convenient at the moment. List the cave mansions here for me, and I'll select a few. Yu Hei did not doubt him, agreeing immediately. Thus, Ningzhu's genuine objective was achieved. Soon after, the flying message reached Shenzai. Shenzai was discussing the arrangement of a formation with Su Linku when he read the message, a smile appearing. Taoist fellow Ningzhu, it's already done. Su Linku extended divine sense. Yu Hei is inviting us, naming Ningzhu as a guest. How did Ningzhu manage this? Shenzai rapidly reviewed Ningzhu's actions in his mind. Most likely invited some elders. This person must be from a great family. Panchi Cave Mansion. On the circular stone table, 5 or 6 delicious dishes were arranged. Yu Hei sat in the main seat, leaving the position for the guest of honor to Ning Zhuo. Besides the two of them, there were Shen Zai and Su Lingku, the cousins. Young Master Ning, please taste this dish. It is called 9 Mountains Sea Calming Soup, made from flour using 9-colored spirit rice and blue sea water to ferment the dough. Then simmer the 9-colored dough using a magic treasure-level pottery jar and stew it with golden rock marrow. If the spirit chef is skilled, earth essence can be formed during the cooking of the spirit food. Yu Hei smiled as he introduced, then stretched out his hand to remove the lid of the pottery jar. In the next moment, yellow-brown mist entwined with 9-colored rays burst forth. Within this mist, 3 mountain shadows emerged and then disappeared instantly. Shenzai, a noble from a great family, was somewhat astonished at the sight and said, "These are 3 mountain shadows, indicating that there are at least 3 pieces of earth essence in the pottery jar. To create such spirit food requires more than an ordinary spirit chef. May I ask, Senior Yu, which master chef from the sect did you invite?" Yu Hei laughed heartily, seemingly pleased at Shenzai's discernment, and said, "It is Tao and from Warm Pot Residence." Su Lingku immediately praised, "So it's the golden core level chef Tao. No wonder such spirit food can be made." Though she had just arrived, she had some knowledge of Tao An's reputation. Spirit chefs at the golden core level are almost always main chefs or head chefs. There are spirit chefs at the nascent soul level, but they do not serve the market. They are often limited to small circles. In regular markets, stable benefits to the public typically come from cultivators at the golden core level. "Young Master Ning, please take a taste." Yu Hei personally picked up a long spoon, stirred around in the pottery jar, and served a soup along with a piece of earth essence into the bowl before Ning Zhuo. The soup was thick, like honey, clear and transparent. Ning Zhuo took a spoonful and immediately felt like he swallowed a mouthful of warm quicksand. Initially, a rich salty taste accompanied by a hint of bitterness was profound, but soon, a refreshing sweetness emerged from the root of his tongue, like mountain spring water mixed with honey from wild flowers. Ning Zhuo swallowed, and as the soup slid down his throat, his spine straightened instantly. A torrent of earth spirit seemed like a waterfall from the heavens, reaching his stomach, bringing an intense sense of gravity. Subsequently, the earth spirit stream continued to evaporate, transforming into warm yellow light, permeating Ning Zhuo's entire body. His muscles were strengthened, his meridians widened, his heartbeat became steady, and accumulated toxins within his body were expelled along with the yellow light. After 8 breaths, Ning Zhuo fully digested, feeling considerable enhancement in defense and endurance. He couldn't help but nod slightly with satisfaction. Yu Hei was astonished. He often consumed such spirit food dishes and knew well, though they had good effects, they also had the drawback of being difficult to digest. Unexpectedly, Ning Zhuo had digested it in such a short time. At least by my own observation, he seems to have digested it. I take at least 6 breaths to digest this spirit food. Don't be deceived by his foundation establishment stage. His physical foundation is strong. Yu Hei suppressed his surprise with a broad smile toward Ning Zhuo. "Young Master Ning, how do you feel?" Ning Zhuo commented. "Not bad, not bad." Then he looked at Shenzai and Su Lingku. "You two might also want to try, it's quite effective." Shenzai and Su Lingku each took a spoonful, their expressions changed, and they promptly closed their eyes at the dining table for breathing control. Shenzai took over 30 breaths, while Su Lingku reached 56 breaths to finish digesting. Su Lingku's face even shone with a hint of yellow light. She felt genuinely delighted and praised from the heart. Indeed, a dish forged by a golden core chef. Shenzai reacted afterward, looking at Ning Zhuo, his pupils flashing with a gleam. Ning Zhuo's physical foundation seems exceedingly strong. At the very least, his ability to digest far exceeds mine. Does he specialize in lower Danshan essence sea cultivation? Upon thinking this, Shenzai began admiring Ning Zhuo's physical cultivation openly. Ning Zhuo shook his head. "Alas, I'm still far from it. This level of physical cultivation is nothing." "Shenzai, Yu Hei." Ning Zhuo's expression was sincere, his lamentation heartfelt. His physical cultivation level lags far behind his soul foundation. Ning Zhuo's soul already possessed 1,000,000 human souls, while his physical cultivation was insufficient, causing his soul cultivation to be stagnant for a long time. A while ago, his skin had turned a greenish-gray color, unable to bear the strong soul. The situation now is only somewhat alleviated. Ning Zhu still has a long way to go. Young Master Ning, here is the 1,000-needle golden firming cake. Please evaluate the taste of this. Yu Hei picked up the communal chopsticks and placed some golden needle mushrooms before Ning Zhu. The mushrooms were long and slender, coated with a layer of golden powder, dazzling. Ning Zhu ate them, the spirit food entering his mouth, transforming into a slow, continuous stream after chewing. The stream quickly spread throughout Ning Zhu's body, cleansing and clearing all congestion and blockage within. Shenzai and Su Lingku were secretly surprised. They had never heard of Yu Hei being so enthusiastic in hosting a foundation establishment cultivator. This was very unusual. Shenzai couldn't help but speculate. What method did Ning Zhu use for Yu Hei to treat him this way? And, is it my illusion? I always feel that this egalitarian attitude is mixed with many attempts at ingratiation. Shenzai's mind was sharp, his insight quite exceptional. He thought of this level, but couldn't convince himself to believe it, as it was quite unbelievable indeed. Yu Hei ate very little himself, mostly serving food to Ning Zhu. This kind of attentiveness was a bit excessive. Ning Zhu also felt a bit uncomfortable and pretended to speak coldly. I can help myself. Senior Yu is too polite, please feel free. Yu Hei laughed heartily. Thank you for your concern, young Master Ning. Shenzai remained silent. Su Lingku felt puzzled, thinking to himself, why does the information say Yu Hei is quick-tempered and irritable, but in reality he is quite the opposite, so amiable? Seeing Ning Zhu decline, Yu Hei quickly stopped what he was doing. He switched his focus and patiently waited for Ning Zhu to take a few bites before saying, Young Master Ning, there are some difficulties in cultivation, and I need your guidance. Su Lingku. The intelligence didn't say Yu Hei was so eager to learn and humble, right? The public opinion often says he is quick-tempered and irritable. Could he be a fake? Shenzai twitched the corner of his mouth, thinking, Yu Hei is treating a foundation establishment cultivator with such an attitude. To seek advice under the guise of being respectful is a bit much, losing the dignity of a golden core cultivator. But then, Yu Hei openly sought advice from Ning Zhu in front of Shen Su, discussing the key points in the reverse 5 elements demon technique. Ning Zhu put down his chopsticks, his expression serious and solemn, to express his opinion. Shenzai became more speechless inwardly. It actually seems like a real thing. But as he listened more, his expression changed, becoming serious and earnest as well. Ning Zhu's responses hit the essence accurately, and more importantly, he cleverly used analogy, making what was initially quite complex sound simple and clear from his mouth, benefiting everyone greatly. Su Lingku also immediately noticed this. The cousins stopped eating gradually and focused on listening. As for Yu Hei, he showed an appearance of seeking knowledge and already had stopped eating. The dining table had turned into a lecture hall. Ning Zhu spoke fluently and became the controller of the entire scene. He knew that Yu Hei's 5 elements realm was insufficient, particularly the gold element and earth element, so he focused on these aspects extensively. Yu Hei initially listened with attentiveness, became overjoyed and enlightened midway, but towards the end, his eyes turned vacant, and he became increasingly dazed. Ning Zhu, noticing his expressions, immediately knew that this person had limited comprehension. Continuing further would not be beneficial, so he wisely chose to stop. This left Shen Su greatly regretting. Su Lingku looked at Ning Zhu, her eyes bright with admiration, thinking, this young Master Ning Zhu is insightful. After all, my cousin is amazing to have discovered such a talent among the crowd at once. Shenzai, on the other hand, cupped his hands towards Ning Zhu, sincerely admired, and said, listening to your words is better than studying for 10 years. Taoist fellow Ning, today I am so fortunate to dine with you at this table. He also cupped his hands to Yu Hei in thanks, grateful to him for giving him such a great opportunity to benefit immensely. Yu Hei waved his hands, first expressing his respect for the Shen family of the 9-palace immortal city, and then his respect towards Shenzai, before turning to Ning Zhu, expressing his gratitude and admiration for him. This time, Shenzai no longer felt that Yu Hei was just flattering. The reason is simple. Ning Zhu has true talent and knowledge. Shenzai's eyes were bright and focused on Ning Zhu, his tone fervent. I wish I could drink and be joyful with Taoist fellow Ning, chatting through the night without sleeping. Ningzhu waved his hand. As the saying goes, every weapon has its advantage. Every implement has its limitation. My Qi Si and Danshan mainly cultivate the 5 elements technique, so I only have some insights about the transformation and planning of the 5 elements. I am still far, far from being truly capable. At this moment, Ningzhu thought of the 5 elements God Master and the Lord of Wangxuan. Su Lingku stuck out her tongue. So this is just some insights. Yu Hei's Adam's apple moved a bit, feeling that Ningzhu was being overly humble. According to his nature, he is quite averse to this kind of noble play from aristocratic young men. If it were him, he would surely raise his head and proudly state that this is my personal ability and my excellence, which ordinary people cannot reach. But Ningzhu said this. Yu Hei accepted it. After all, it was Ningzhu who saved his life. Even if it was a hidden elder beside Ningzhu who acted, without showing themselves, it was clearly intended to place this kindness upon Ningzhu. Yu Hei understood this aspect. Thus, he placed the life-saving favor on Ningzhu. Ningzhu's humble attitude greatly suited Shenzai's preferences. Shenzai, who came from the Shen family of the 9-palace immortal city, was from childhood strictly educated, who, if put in the same position, would also show such humility. This made Shenzai fond of Ningzhu, feeling that the other party is the same kind as him. Ningzhu then looked up at Shenzai, sincerely saying, "The great name of the Shen family of 9-palace immortal city, I've long heard is thunderous in my ear. Meeting Taoist fellow Shenzai today is an immense honor for me. To be honest, I've always had a strong interest in learning about formations, but I'm not very familiar with the 9-palace formation. Usually, the one I use most frequently is still the 5 elements formation." Shenzai laughed heartily, feeling very pleased. Ningzhu's compliments to the Shen family made him feel greatly dignified. Previously, such flattery from Ningzhu would have hardly made Shenzai so happy. But now, through Yu Hei's questioning, comprehension, confirmation, and re-question process, Ningzhu demonstrated his profound mastery of the 5 elements realm. As to how profound, Shenzai still couldn't gauge its depths, but he could confirm that Ningzhu far surpassed him in this regard. This alone was enough. After all, knowing how young Ningzhu is to have greatly surpassed Shenzai in this area, and even being able to be a teacher to someone like Yu Hei, a golden core cultivator, is already an immense achievement. Of course, in the cultivation world, there are countless means, with many marvelous methods for retaining youthful appearances. But interacting with Ningzhu, Shenzai felt that the other person's actual age couldn't be very much. Mainly because Ningzhu himself still harbors a sense of innocence and curiosity, far from the twilight nature usually seen in the middle-aged or elderly. Shenzai, holding a position within the 9-palace immortal city, had met quite a number of people, which was also part of the deliberate nurturing from his family. Therefore, Shenzai had a decent ability in discerning people's natures. Taoist fellow Ningzhu's actual age should be slightly older than me, possibly a decade older. Guess the 30-year-old Shenzai. He grossly underestimated Ningzhu's 5 elements realm, but the perceived gap seemed to suggest to Shenzai that Ningzhu's age was much greater. Shenzai immediately stated, "Taoist fellow Ningzhu has such profound mastery in the 5 elements, which is truly enviable. Your 5 elements array must be extraordinary indeed." Ningzhu's eyes brightened. "Lately, I indeed had some realizations, still needing to seek some advice from Taoist fellow Shen." Shenzai quickly said, I don't dare." Nonetheless, Ningzhu voluntarily shared the 5 elements array he designed. Yu Hei recognized a lot of the mechanisms within the reverse 5 elements demon technique. Shenzai listened carefully, his brows slightly furrowed. "Taoist fellow Ning, are you aiming to design a 5 elements array plate?" Ningzhu spoke truthfully. Taoist fellow Shen guessed most of it correctly, precisely. It's about designing a 5 elements mechanism part. This wasn't an excuse he deliberately pulled out. The actual situation was like this. He gained insights from the reverse 5 elements demon technique, and also manipulated Yu Hei's chaotic 5 elements golden core. After practical manipulation, many inspirations emerged within him. His prior battle with the Lord of Wangchuan saw him with too low a cultivation level, relying on the iron hand armor, golden swallow, for constant movement, repeatedly skirting the edge of death. This extremely stimulating battle experience created a dire drive within him to continue refining the iron hand armor. Currently, it's only some preliminary concepts, not yet mature. Ningzhu shared some of his thoughts directly. Shenzai's brow furrowed even deeper. I can tell from your words that you intend to improve the mechanism parts, making them serve as sources of mechanical magical power. But using a golden core as the core, isn't that too extravagant? Shenzai spoke tactfully, implying that, as small foundation establishment cultivators, using another's golden core as a consumable might be reaching beyond our grasp. Yuhei, listening, felt a cold sweat, thinking about the 5 elements golden core in his own body. Little did he know that Ningzhu had 100 or so golden cores at his disposal.